agree with everything he says all the time, but it's so important to have that type of information being put out there, and we just do not see that very much. We don't see any more Manly P. Halls. We don't see any more Teslas coming to the table. You know, we don't see these people who have this, and that's what I'm trying to inspire with people. You know, is like, hey, if you have that amount of knowledge, then you need to be putting it out on the table. You know, and you have to be doing that work. Wisdom is right action, and that is the right action. You know, and we can't lose touch with our origins with any of the occult traditions. So yeah, I think what everybody said here is really important. I think this is a interesting discussion that you really don't hear anywhere in the freedom community. You know, you don't really hear this type of rhetoric, and that's what I want to see. I want to see more this type of rhetoric coming from people. You know, especially with the higher level initiates. You know, we can take it further, and that's fine. But when obviously you just have to be strategic. You have to know who the audience is that you're approaching, right? You got to be strategic. You got to make it adjust. You have to adjust your technique to who you're trying to talk to. If you're talking to a child, or if you're talking to an adult with a child mindset, or are you talking to an initiate, are you talking to someone who has been initiated and they're further along? You know, you're going to adjust the knowledge that you release to those people. And then the last thing I'll say is that yes, it's work, but not all work is stressful, you know, in the bad way. Sometimes work is really fun, and if it's more fun for you, if you have a passion for it, right? Yes, it's going to be difficult at some level, but if you really have a passion for it, you're going to get up and do that. And we have to have a passion to do this work. You know, this is what our passion should be. This is what we need to put out there and be communicating to more people. So yeah, I mean, if you want to romanticize it, that's fine. Put it in art. That's great. It's already out there in a lot of art. Keep doing that, you know, but it's also about giving them the knowledge so that they can understand those allegories and the hero myth and all that stuff. Because if you don't have it, then it doesn't matter if it's in the art, because then you can't decipher it. You know, you're just looking at a picture and you're just like, oh, you know, I don't know what that really means. You know, I'm just entertained by it. So it doesn't matter to me, you know, and you can't see the patterns. So, but yeah, there you guys go run with it.
Right. Yeah, just real quick, just a two-liner. I mean, we're dealing with people, the limited imagination versus the Magi nation that they haven't quite activated within themselves, and that's okay. But yeah, man, and I mentioned this in a podcast of like, hey, you know, this ain't really a spectator sport. We need more participants and all this stuff. You know, we got to get over the 100 monkey effect, and you know, why not 100%? You know, be on somewhat of a similar level. But all that, you know, it's just a word of advice. You know, like if you're struggling on finding purpose in life, or you know the truth and don't know what to do with it, like just find out what you're passionate about in life and what you're good at, and try to find those mediums of expression that align with that and correspond, and make it happen, you know, little by little. You know, like even if you want to put your voice out there, but your throat chakra is a little rusty, or you know, practice. Get used to feeling comfortable within your own skin and hearing your own voice. Because yeah, and we all have to, you know, man up, woman up, and you know, step into that, you know, courageous self of, you know, wanting to express and be seen, heard in whatever way, right? But yeah, anything you do in life, whether it's speaking the truth or not, or just, you know, walking down the street, no matter what, keep this in mind. People are gonna, you know, either like you or, you know, hate you sometimes, or whatever in between emotions, you know. So just, you know, stick to the solid foundations that you know, built within your temple, right? You got the two pillars of enlightenment. You're nice and sturdy but fluid, because you know, like the yin and yang can be fluid, right? We gotta, you know, go with the flow and not, you know, get caught up in all the rigmarole and minutia crap. But yeah, that's what I wanted to
say. You know,
Fred, you're muted.
We talk about teaching to people. So what kind of structure, what do we have to do, or do we have to put in context for these people? What structure we need to for an example, you want to like you meet someone, and then this person is like, it's not initiated, she not even look into it. How do you approach someone with occult knowledge?
I should have listened to the rest of your question first, but the approach that I would take with some people is just to start asking questions, use a sort of Socratic method with them to get them in a position where they're actually realizing it for themselves instead of me trying to put anything on them. They kind of you start asking them questions about how do you feel when you get treated right, and then and then kind of lean into the direction of like, well, is that how the like, for instance, the government is treating us? Is that the way you get treated by somebody who cares about you? Like, that's just a for instance, and get them there on their own instead of just being like in their face, like, hey, in their face about it, you know what I mean? And be like, hey, they're coming after you, like, because
We're going to turn into an Alex Jones.
Yeah. Well, the lizard people and like, and all that great stuff. But it's really tough when you kind of bitch slap them with the red pill, it turns into the black pill pretty goddamn quick. And a lot of people will just put their heads right back in the sand. And it's a problem I've seen multiple times. And it's like, I've had to adjust my approach. And so far, like just asking questions and just like being like, so, hey, what do you think about this thing going on in the world? The war or whatever, whatever the case may be, something that they might be interested in. We go, do you really think that's right? And they go, no. And I'm like, well, then why are you participating in it? I speak to veterans all the time, and I get a little scared when I'm talking to the veterans because they're kind of, loose cannons. But I got into it with one of the guys that I work with, and I was talking to him about anarchy and natural law, and he called me a weirdo, and I said, well, at least I'm not a murderer. And he wanted to, and like it was almost a thing. And I said, what, dude? Like, what do you want from me? I called him out on his shit. And he kind of had this look on his face like, how dare I? And it's like, well, I know you told me stories, dude. Like, don't bring it to name calling, because I can do that too. But anyways, I really like to just ask people questions and just to see if I can get them there on their own, and then, hopefully they take away from those conversations a little something for themselves to kind of just think about, and being called names is not fun, but it's bound to happen, I guess. It's just like, I've been called, retarded and everything. It's like, because I homeschool my children, or my wife and I homeschool our children, and it's like, why am I retarded for doing that? Like, that's pretty backwards, and like the old cliche, like, you really think you can do something about it? And I go, well, no, not alone, but I have to at least try. Like, I've been struggling with that a lot lately. Like, I've been getting into a lot of arguments with people in my life, not in my life, but like around me, like that I can reach out and touch. Just like getting into face-to-face arguments with people, and it's not fun. Something that's been going on a lot lately. But
I like it. I like it very much.
The confrontation is kind of, it's kind of like sharpening the sword. It's kind of it's kind of sharpening it a little bit. But it's tough. But I don't really like to focus on trying to wake up too mmany people. To be honest with you, like I speak the truth. If I'm in a conversation with somebody, I'll speak the truth. I'll tell the truth. And there's a few people that I go out of my way to like really try to help. Like, I have a cousin, and he's like a little brother to me, and I really go out of my way to try to help him, to make sure that like he has a good view of like what's going on. And we were talking about it, and I was like, he's like saying all these things. I go, dude, you're like a step away from being an anarchist. Like you don't even realize it. The things you're saying, you know, it's like, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that, and like they're not supposed to do that. It's not right. And it's like, dude, like you are right there, buddy. You just need a little push. You know, it's like, but I focus on my family really a lot.
I'd like to add something.
I'm done.
I wanted to share that I think that there's a lot of people who are suffering right now in the world, and that we can meet them at that place of their pain. And from their pain, there's the opening to really identify the root of the problem and the occulted knowledge that is actually a remedy to the problem, right? Whether it's occulted health information, like what Dr. Kaufman is doing, or psychology and self-knowledge and shadow work and healing trauma, you know, it all comes where people are motivated is from their pain, usually their desire for change that motivates them. And often people have a certain level even of desperation to break out of, you know, because they're afraid of death, they're afraid of illness, right? And so we have some knowledge that can really help them in that aspect of like self-defense on all levels, you know, the physical self-defense, the health defense, the psychological defense, the spiritual defense, to empower people, because ultimately people feel powerless. They feel beaten down. And the occulted knowledge is really about empowerment and self-initiation into, being whole again. So I think that's part of it. And then also kind of like where I kind of follow Derek in saying is people also want to be entertained, and they want to laugh, and they want to, be stimulated in different ways. And so we have opportunities to meet them there too.
I can add to that for sure. Well said. You know, there's two things that I think are really important when someone's making content. It has to be relatable and useful to the people that are taking in the information. So description is not explanation. So understanding, for example, the natural law principles and explaining them how other people can relate to what you're talking about, instead of just reading the Kabbalion phrase that it has, definition, and just stating that, and that's what it is. When in reality, you could actually explain in a real world situation, in depth, unlimited amount of ways, right? For really any kind of occult topic. So people need to be able to relate to it as well. I agree with Leslie, everything you said, and Derek and James. The Socratic method is great. You need to kind of, especially if it's one-on-one, you need to gauge the level of awareness of the person you're speaking with. Or if you're making content, kind of know your demographic. Are you speaking to teens? Are you speaking to younger children? Or is it for just adults? And so there's unlimited amount of categories. And sure, that can be through entertainment, through comedy. I mean, all different types of outlets. But I think it's good to hold that in mind. Is it useful, and can people relate to it? That's something people can take into consideration.
Yeah, that's a great point, Will, because if you can like gauge the person that you're talking to, and like if you know the person that you're talking to and you start having that interaction with them, you know, like a Socratic method type or whatever, then you can really get to the heart of like what, and it's not really, I feel weird saying it like this because it almost sounds like I'm trying to exploit what they care about and manipulate them, but that's not it at all. It's more like just like holding their hand for a moment, helping them across the street in a way where, you know, you kind of find out like what is bothering them, because like that's the thing, right? Where's all this, you know, public outrage coming from? Where's all this animosity toward our neighbors? And, you know, maybe not for everybody, but a lot of it's going on. It's because a lot of people are bothered. They're under stress. We're held under duress throughout our entire lives, basically. and that's going to manifest. Like the outcome of that like is going to be nasty. So in order to like get back to like a more peaceful social situation, you kind of have to figure out what people care about, and that will lead them to figure out like, you know, yeah, I am being screwed over. Well, you know, I always like to tell people that like, you know, I hear the phrase like, let's take our power back, and it bothers me. It really bothers me because we never really gave it up, right? I always say that we're tricked into thinking we don't have it when we do. We have it right now. We've always had it. So we were fooled into thinking that we don't. So like people like, so like what I like to tell people is things along those lines, and to learn what somebody cares about, and to like, you know, help them use that anger in some ways, you know. But that's a really brilliant point, Will. That's really good advice. To like gauge your audience. Yeah. Gauge the person that you're talking to, get to know them, show some care to them, you know, because that's something that's really lacking in the world today. Might just be my opinion, but
No, we
You
see
know,
what's going
yeah.
on, and I got a pretty interesting perspective because I spent the past 12 years in France, and so I've been back on the West Coast between California and Oregon for the past since December, and the whole time I'm out there, kind of, you know, getting a bird's eye view, if you will, but still pretty out of touch. So, I mean, we all felt the polarization just go really extreme since the dawning of the bitch ass Rona, right? Or what, COVID-19? Or you say Devoc AI when you know deoccult that, right? But damn it, I forgot where I was going a little bit. But yeah. So what I've seen with the polarities is, and yeah, like, and talking to people over here face to face, like, I'm kind of surprised a little bit. I'm kind of in the neoliberal area. Will's had to suffer through this quite a bit, I'm sure. But Bay Area by San Francisco. But yeah, Leslie, I really loved what you were talking about, and like the whole time I've been here, I've been like, one of my best friends out here is someone that Fred's gonna interview next week in Odysseus Andronos. He does shadow work and this and that, and like people need this more than ever because yeah, since the Rona, we've had this whole, you know, collective meltdown of, you know, people being traumatized in so many different ways, and the suicide rates are up, and all this stuff. And yeah, people are really just looking for some comfort. And what I've also noticed, you know, within the polarization as well, is that there's the echo chambers are unbelievable. I mean, I was talking about the algorithmic bitch shit, if you like, just to throw a little rhyme, play on words, whatever. But it's absolutely true. But have you guys noticed? I mean, how many people have their YouTube channel compromised in whatever way, shadow banned, had shit censored, deleted, even a whole YouTube channel deleted, like me recently as well? It's just crazy. But anyways, it's like we get more subscribers and this and that, even though we have a paltry amount next to all those, you know, cute, you know, cat video people that make all this, you know, fluff. And for the entertainment, right? What does that mean? To enter the mind and hold it. When they're holding it the wrong way. And the brainwashing is full of fucking fluoride and other shit. But what I love and what I've been doing, my medium of expression touches so many people in so many ways, and it can reach the lowest common denominator in a sense, is just music. I mix hip hop and all that stuff. And what KRS-One, classic hip hop artist, he coined the term, one of his golden albums back in the day. I think it was like '89 even. I have it on tape cassette, even signed by him. It's titled Edutainment, you know, educare, education, right? And you know, having fun with it, making it more, you know, palpable or digestible or approachable in so many different ways on so many different levels. Again, so what do you got to think about that, my friends? Or something else?
I'd like to cut in here and add something to the entertainment idea. So for me, and in my personal journey, right, and I know you guys have heard my background a little bit, being raised as an anarchist, having access to occult knowledge very early on. I personally, for me, the two ways that I approach people, which I normally don't go out of my way to do that anymore, where I did do that quite a bit. I liked what James was saying, was like, it's not really about going out and awakening the masses. Like you're just really making a fool out of yourself, because most people are just going to slap your assistance away unless they're ready for it. If they're asking for it and they're ready for it, it's just like anybody who has suicidal issues, or who's a junkie, or an addict. Obviously, if they're not ready for it, they're not going to listen to you. They have to want to help themselves. A lot of people understand this. So I want to point out two things, like approaching them and relating to them with on the same level of pain, especially if you can relate and you actually can empathize with that and sympathize with it, and you've went through those things, and you've come out of that, and you've been through therapy, you've done the work on yourself, you've done your shadow work. You can really get to people on that. But also entertainment, and this is what I was going to say, is that I personally like to explain symbolism within entertainment to people. And I think that really, really catches people's eyes, because they're so locked into the entertainment world, right? And then when you start to unravel that fractal nature of the motifs in these movies, they're blown away. Look at all the YouTube channels that are like bringing out all the Easter eggs, right? Which is an occult term, right? Or Easter eggs in video games, right? But they don't really unravel the occult mysteries, but they're unraveling like a little bit more than what you would normally get just sitting around, the common household. And all these people are just, millions of views for somebody who's breaking down a Marvel movie and showing you all these hidden details and hidden secrets. People are really attracted to these things, right? So if you can catch them, kind of like what me and Chris just did with the Aliens movie, that's really intriguing to people. I had so many people really compliment our breakdown of the Aliens movie, and I've always got to people through symbolism, because people are really interested in symbolism. Even the most left brain people. I've come across the most left brain, like rigidly skeptical person, who are just like, symbolism has no meaning, same thing with words, and all this stuff. And then I start talking to them about it, and it completely unravels them. And like a year later, or maybe even shorter, they come back to me and they're like, oh my God, I'm seeing this stuff everywhere now. It's just blowing my mind. So symbolism can really be the downfall of that type of mind control, so unraveling through entertainment, right? So if you can sit down and you can have a real, you can do a Socratic method if you want to, which is really good. I've used that for many, many years. But also if you just, incrementally have a good discussion with somebody, and, you can ask them like, hey, what do you think this means? And you're like, well, this is how I'm kind of seeing this. And, give them little pieces here and there, and plant the seeds of these things in people, where they can start to, nourish these seeds within their subconscious mind. And then maybe they will take that and actually find an interest in looking deeper at things. I've had so many people come back to me and they're like, when you explained the allegory of that film to me, it just blew me. It changed my life. Now I don't see any film the same, like the hero myth. Now I see it everywhere. Yeah. It's all over the place. And when you can really tap into what people like, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Tap into what they like, but unravel the mind control about what they like, so that they are interested in the hidden knowledge and truth within that. Then they're really going to latch onto it, because we gotta understand. And I like what James said as well. It's not about manipulating people, but it is about subverting mind control, right? Yeah. You're trying to subvert that mind control that they're under. And you're also trying to break through these barriers that they have up. And the way that you can do that is by relating with them. And since most people are hedonistic, right? Well, use that to your advantage. This is something I've always said, like the satanic mindset of the me mentality, right? The selfishness. Use it to your advantage. That these people have that mindset. So use reverse psychology on that and show them that the only way that they can actually protect their own freedoms that they're so concerned about, the me thing, is by protecting other people's freedoms. That's the only way. So, turn that idea against them. And then eventually, that's going to unravel, and hopefully they'll actually just do it because it's the right thing to do. But we got to realize that not everybody's going to do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. A lot of people are going to be selfish at some level. Hopefully not, and that's what we're working to change. But there are going to be some people who are just going to be selfish. So if you can use that to the advantage of freedom, not to my advantage, but to the advantage of the idea of freedom and morality, that's a good thing, because like I always say, the evil has within it the seeds of its own destruction. Satanism has the seeds of its own destruction within it. You just have to understand psychology. You got to know how to warp it so it flips it on its head and goes right side up. That's it. So, I mean, I always think about these things, right? You got to look at it and say, okay, how can I approach this, and try. Sometimes you're going to fail. Some people aren't going to listen to that, and you just got to work with it and work with other people, see what they need, and gauge their level of awareness and their level of interest, so I think that's really important. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm really looking forward to, I love what you're saying, and I'm really looking forward to our next discussion on the movie Aliens. I've gotten a lot out of that, but I do kind of want to point out again what I'm getting at, the flip side of that coin, besides just the discussion and the mental aspect of this. There's a couple things I've discovered that have made a huge difference in my life. One of them was a gentleman named Wim Hof, and Wim Hof's breathing techniques, and he's broken 27 world records or something ridiculous like that. And they've had to change the medical books, because of things that Wim Hof has done. And then Leslie mentioned Andrew Kaufman, and I've gotten involved with the health freedom movement. There's a lot of people out there that are, the numbers are they're multiplying. People are super damaged by these choices they've made of getting themselves injected. And we have an opportunity to learn healing arts, to learn the self-defense arts, and to help people on a physical level. And if you can build trust with people, they're going to be a lot more willing to listen to you. Years ago, when I first came to realize things, I was like pissed off. I was pissed off about the chemtrails. I was practically yelling at people, and they kind of thought I was a little bit crazy, But over the years, I've built up trust with certain people because I keep showing up. I keep being a good person. I keep doing the right thing. And they can see that I'm doing really good health-wise, And eventually people are going to be coming to us for help. And if we learn the healing arts, if we learn the self-defense arts, and we know the other things Brandon's talking about, the allegorical and the mental aspects and the spiritual aspects, it's going to build trust with people. And that's really what I was talking about in the funnel conference with our most powerful weapon of working together. It requires trust, and we're not going to build trust with people until they know what we're about. People that know us, they know what we're about. They don't want to think about it. They're afraid of what we're talking about. But the only way they're going to break through that wall is when they get to the point where, that, like Leslie's saying, they're so damaged and they're so frustrated and their body's falling apart, or they can't deal with their emotions, and they see other people that are doing it, and they're going to want to follow that example. So we need to be the examples in the world of how to do things in a way that's powerful. And if we do that, people are going to come to us for the answers, and they're going to start saying, well, maybe this guy does know something. He used to sound a little crazy, but look what he's doing, man. Look what he's able to do.
Yeah, I think a powerful point to try to reinforce with people is if you are getting to, if you get to a point where the people that were calling you crazy a year ago or 2 years ago are starting to come around, don't expect an apology from them. I think that not to say I think that it's just a healthy thing to just be able to move on, just push forward, move on. Don't be hey, where's that written apology that you owe me? It's try not to do that. Just be okay, cool. All right, let's lock arms. Let's continue together. Fuck the past. We can go back there if you want later, but I'm not concerned about it now. Let's just go forward. In gaining trust. Right. That was a very good point, Chris. That's where, and that comes from showing true care for your fellow person
too, right?
Well, yeah, you can't give something to someone else that you first don't have for yourself, right? So yeah, care for yourself, and you learn that, and then you can care for others. And when you care for others, and when you're caring for yourself, and you're doing the right thing, good things happen to you. The whole law of attraction stuff. That's real, and synchronicities happen and stuff like that. People see that and they go, well, look what's going on over there. I kind of want to have that good attitude too. well, okay, here's how you do it. So yeah, I appreciated that point, Chris, about trust.
I
So-
am.
Oh, you go. No problem.
Fred's like, whoa.
We're allowed to talk. We got a lot to say.
Yeah, I was thinking about how our community is being relegated to the periphery, right? Our media is being put further away from the masses, just, like those Taoist temples. And so in some ways, I was thinking about how there may be a need in some ways to infiltrate, right? How do we join in to the mainstream community more so? And that would be, through joining on our commonalities, right? Our commonalities is we all seek happiness, we seek safety, health, we love our children, right? And so it's through there that then we can find our inroad to that dialogue and that inspiration. And I think we have to be careful about how we talk about people and not insult people, because if we are expressing our frustrations and our irritations around, the blocks that we're facing through criticizing, not even just criticizing, but like insulting people, they're not going to want to listen to us, right? And I think as a community, that's something for us to think about if we're really looking at drawing people in. It's also like we're on this periphery. We want people who want the knowledge, right? Who are hungry to learn, to come, to us as well, right? And they were once, and we were all once, probably maybe not everybody, but to some degree, we were those blind masses, right? And unfolded our knowledge in gradual ways. So we want to be the people we needed. Sometimes that's a kick in the ass. I think all of us here probably responded somewhat to being yelled at a little bit, but not everybody is going to respond to that. So we all have our individual ways and our personalities and our characters to bring, to be able to inspire and draw in people.
Beautiful.
I was listening to you people, and I mean, this is a great show. I thank you so much, people, for sharing that. And this is what I wanted to see. Opinions and people they're talking, respect, and shout out to you people. I suggest I put some links there. Or I suggest people to go see on the One Great Work Network. All these beautiful people there are there, and on the website, I put the link right there in the comment section of the YouTube. I think I'm gonna put it on Facebook later. So I was listening to you, and we know what we have to do as great workers, but how do you instill care into people? What tool can you use to instill care? Because basically this is what we need. We need people to care about it, care about freedom, care about principles, and we have a sleepwalkers around, like voting and getting fights for inane stupid things. My team lost, oh, my football team lost. I'm so fucking angry. I'm gonna be violent with people, and this is where we have to this is where it is very challenging. You have this religious behavior, and some people like atheists or religionists are gonna disapprove everything that you're gonna say, and what do you use? Trivium? What would be used to instill care into people? What point have we to push on to make it grow into people?
Reverse engineering. I mean, what do we see the media doing 24/7, 365? They're pulling on the heartstrings of countless people day in, day out. and it's instilling a lot of negative knowledge that creates that dark care, or the inverted type of care, and that's why we have the invasion of the Karens or whatever people want to call them. But yeah, how do we pierce the minds and hearts of men, women, and children? And yeah, we're taking stabs at it for sure. There's so many angles we can take, but yeah, as far as like getting to the essence of something that makes them have that aha moment, and it could be just as easy as James and Brandon were saying, is just ask a question. And speaking of Brandon, Miss Dispenza, we were talking about how folks can be living as light as a feather under any kind of weather. But yeah, heart goes out to the folks out in like East Coast, Florida area with the manufactured hurricane season, whatever.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
manufactured, all right.
Yeah,
I think
That's right.
I think at some point
I seen
we
evidence.
we need to be honest with ourselves and come to the realization that we can't instill care into anyone. Really, I think that what we can focus on, however, is like the care that we have. Like I said previously about caring for ourselves and showing care for others. We're really only responsible for our own actions. But at the end of the day, the choice of remaining emotionally available for those when the time comes that they decide to care, I think is more so where we should kind of be focused on, if I'm making sense there. So, yeah, I don't know. Just to be able to be there for people and to be like, well, you don't care, but when you come around and you start caring, I'm not going to hold it against you. I'll be here for you. And like I think that might be some. I hope that's some good advice. I don't know. That's just
I think caring for others helps people to recognize their own value, right? And when someone loves themselves and they care about themselves, then they have the capacity to care about others. So I think you're onto something.
Sure. And just making sure that like, like to Fred's question about like, how do we instill care into others? Like, it's like, I don't know if that's our responsibility. I question that if whether or not we really have that responsibility, or if we really have the right to like push that on somebody really hard to like, try to get in there. But like, I don't know, maybe leading by example would be a good start. And then just, hoping that they come around in time where you can be there for them and have it make a difference. But at that time, it's like, that's a tough question, Fred, man. You always come up with the good ones, brother, but I do think that it's just about being available for the person when something's going to happen to them. I'm so sorry. I forget who mentioned it earlier tonight, but somebody in here tonight said something about these people are bound to reveal themselves, like the liars or the cheats, like they can't help it. They reveal themselves eventually. Something along those lines.
Whatever Brandon Martin was saying that.
Yeah, evil always had the seeds of his own destruction
within them.
Yeah.
Right. And like, so that is kind of like coming to mind right now for me about, eventually something's going to happen for each individual where it's just like, they're going to care about it. They're going to, all of a sudden they're going to start caring. And I guess it's time, that's when it's time for people like us to be able to be there for them and be available for them and to like come together, as a community, as a team, and to try to like, help each other out through the tough times. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, those of us that understand how to care and what it means should do that for ourselves and for like our children and our spouse or significant other, or whatever, but
I think it's
tough.
You're really on something, James, because what you're saying is you can't give somebody care. Almost like what you were talking about with the power, how people say, oh, we need to take the power back, and the power's already there. It's kind of the same thing with this care thing. You can't give someone care because care is built in. It's part of what this reality we're experiencing. The main thing of being alive is trying to survive, and that is caring for yourself, self-care. I don't know, I keep finding myself bringing it back to the physical world here, but Derek mentioned the Karens, right? And how
Care.
Karen, because are they caring for you by wearing their mask? Is that really caring for yourself or caring for other people? It's just like everything else in this world. It's totally inverted. Everybody has care. They just don't understand how to define that word. They're looking at it from the wrong angle. It's the total opposite of what actual care is. And the best way, I'm going to keep coming back to this, is to set the example. If you care for yourself, that's the self-work, the initiation. Stop lying to yourself. Take care of your body. Take care of people around you. Take care and responsibility of what you're doing. When you set the example of the right way to survive, it's a natural function. The care is going to emerge on its own because it already is existent, and it is the reality we're living in. Our body is care. Our body is constantly self-healing. That's what it does. That's what this existence is. And so it's not something that can really ever be taken away, but is something that can be encouraged and blossomed and regrown.
Bravo.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Brandon Spencer.
Yeah, so many great points. And I would agree with what Chris and James just said is care has to come from within, and by leading by example and taking accountability and responsibility, then I think that will be the best way to inspire others. I know Will Keller is always talking about inspiring others, and I've been inspired by everyone here, by leading by example and being that or having that internal leader, then that's really how we can, start to pretty much get people to kind of see how we are doing. And something that I wanted to bring up because we was talking about how do we get people back to these occult topics and help occult traditions. I've always been a huge advocate of mind influence, and I always differentiate that from mind control. Mind control would be for an egoistic, purpose, compared to mind influence. That would be more for a freedom, truth, non-egoic purpose. And I think having the tools as far as communication skills and learning how psychology works and understanding how your psychology works and having an understanding of NLP, how to read body language, all of that can be used as tools as far as to getting these messages across. I'm not saying it's going to be, held 100%, but these tools are not good or evil, so it's just all about how you use them. And I've always been an advocate of, how symbolism, how using allegories to explain this message in a deeper sense, because we can spark this creativity and curiosity in people. And that's what symbolism has always been used for, is to get people to understand these archetypes, to get people to understand these motifs. So if we have a good understanding of that of ourselves, and then you mix in those tools as far as, NLP, communication skills, seeing that, hey, someone's body is starting to tense up when you were spreading this information, then I can back up or, kind of tone this information down and go from there. I think that may actually help too, as far as getting this message across. But yeah, the whole care aspect has to come from within and leading by example first.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can't give someone care, just like you can't give someone courage. But what you can do is influence and inspire and show someone what courage looks like and what care looks like. It's like during the bullshit lockdowns when they had the mask mandates, and you're the only one walking in that store without a mask on, right? Because you care about yourself and you care about freedom. And then you see someone that had a mask on, they see you, and then they take their mask off, right? I've that's happened to me multiple times. And within you, it feels good, right? And that person now, it got inspired by you because they were thinking on your lines, right? But they didn't have the care or the courage to act. And that resonates off an individual. So I always I always explain the difference of leader and mentor. A leader seeks people to lead, right? Follow me, follow me. A mentor just does the self, right? And aligns the self, and people seek out the mentor. mentor is just a stepping stone where you learn and you can grow within yourself and then move on. So I think that's a big difference. Having a holistic approach. This is this has been great, this whole discussion. Everyone has different segments of these categories, which kind of embodies a holistic approach as well, where we can be autodidacts and we can be versatile in our work so people can relate to it. Meeting people, like what Leslie said about meeting them at their suffering. Addiction was a huge part of my past that I do not regret because it forced me to look within myself. Now that's something that I can easily start doing content on, and I have talked about, but more in-depth content, because there's people out there all over the place that deal with some type of substance abuse and addiction, and they can relate to you. They can relate to the darkness that they're in, that you have been in. And then you're being that influence of care, and strength. So.
Can you pantomime walking through the store again?
And that's how I walk. That's how I walk.
Dude, I have a very similar story. I think I even told you this before about the mask in the store during the height of the whole mask thing. And like, I was doing the same thing, walking through the market basket without the mask on. And this dude in front of his 4 or 5 year old daughter, they both have masks on. He goes, "Hey, I wish I had the balls to do that." And I was like, "Do just take it off."
I've had some of the greatest experiences with my daughter during the mask mandates, where I would have a talk with her before we go into a store, and then we go in. And sometimes people don't say anything, or sometimes there is an incident, and she gets to see me facilitate that discussion. Sometimes, there's some righteous anger that has to be instilled, but still I'm being the mentor for her so she can see that. So experiences, real world experiences, and being the change, which is cliche, but it is the truth.
Yeah, I think that your point about drug addiction is a serious hurdle that us as a society have to jump over. Hey, my presentation at the conference last weekend was about how they get kids addicted to drugs. So yeah, like the methamphetamine, well, the amphetamines and everything. So it's a huge topic, and that coming out of that drug haze is such a huge step for so many people, because it is that haze that indeed will create a lot of the dependency issues that in turn create the control structure that we're so vehemently opposed to. And it's like this, hey, if you got a severe head injury or something, and you need a little bit of some medication or whatever, that's up to you. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that it's just overdone on purpose.
It's not always substance, right? I mean,
Sure.
I would say one of the biggest addictions is the addiction to the false self, right? With all the likes and the selfies, and people are just addicted to feeding their false self and their egotism. And people are addicted to the human experience, which keeps them locked and rooted in the physical material domain, and ignoring spirit and the unseen laws and all this kind of stuff. So
sure.
Addiction in general is prevalent.
A lot of it comes from just honestly, when you're talking about likes and the selfies and the this and the that, that's all dopamine related to dopamine, and that in turn, the dopamine deficiencies are related to how well is your diet, and are you receiving the positive feedback from the people that are supposed to be giving it to you. So a lot of these things, they play into this together. They contribute to it together. They stack on top of each other and compound, and they make a big mess. A bunch of little messes combined make a huge mess. So, when we're talking about, biochemical imbalances, not always, the brain imbalance, a chemical imbalance of the brain isn't necessarily a real thing. But the body can create a chemical imbalance, and then the chemicals get sent to your brain, and your brain's supposed to figure out what to do with them. So when you're talking about a poor diet, and then on top of all that, you have the insecurities. And as a child, if you're not taught how to work through your insecurities, then you're going to grow up to be kind of a fucking mess. And that mess can be cleaned up too. It's not a hopeless case, but all I'm saying is that, like, when it comes to like the ego identification and all of these things that we play into with like social media clicks and the likes and the this and the that, like, it has a lot to do with, biochemical, things going on in your brain, it's twisted. It's really twisted. You get addicted to that because it's a dopamine hit, and there's better ways to get attention. There's more constructive ways to get attention, and it all starts in childhood. Like, that's why a lot of us here, we do focus a lot on early life and stages of development, and it's a very, I think it's a bold statement to make, but I'm willing to be the one to make it. There's a lot of people that are my age and older, and that are absolutely hopeless. And that, and I'm sorry, but like, it just seems that way. But like, if we can like turn our attention to treating the youth better, I think that there's a more hopeful future. And I'm willing to be the one that, sacrifices my comfort, if that means that the people that will eventually adopt this place around us, like, if they're comfortable, I know I'm willing to sacrifice my own comfort for that. It's just, I think that the kids, the kids today, they're fucked if we don't do something about it.
There was a comment that popped up related to kind of what Will was saying about the false self, and that people are addicted to getting approval from others. And a lot of this dopamine hits and addiction on social media is about that. It's about getting likes. It's about getting validation, acknowledgement, attention, and it creates the false self. And it really is about people children who weren't allowed to find themselves, to be their true self, and it's being masked by this false social self. And Michael Desarian talks about evil, the definition of evil being about self-murder, right? And ultimately, if we are murdering ourselves to fit into an external, image, or wear a mask, that is based on an external, someone else's gain, right? Then we are losing ourselves, we're murdering ourselves, and therefore we're succumbing to evil. So the solution is really about finding our true self, right?
Yeah. Not the straw man, right? Because like, we're born into this false self already with the straw man under Black's Law, Admiral Law, and all that stuff. And then we're conditioned when we grow up and stuff, and all the media is really focusing on and appealing towards those lower values, lower vibratory things, and that lower sense, base level consciousness, minutia a good amount. And people have been hooked on it for so long. And, Terence McKenna has like 1,000 quotes on like just how TV is a drug, and it just keeps people in like a larval state, with the alpha waves pumping in and all this stuff. Like, again, like, how can we reverse engineer that stuff? I don't know who said it earlier, but that makes a lot of sense on a lot of things. And like, this is what they've done in a sense, because they lack imagination, and stealing from the imagination, right? Since before antiquity and all this stuff is just a lot of plagiarism and quote unquote trying to reinvent the wheel and all this stuff. They ain't the true innovators, and we could take what the hell they've done and screwed up and just either scrap it or build something way better on top of that, and just appeal towards people's higher senses and find those ways to generate that true sense of care, right? That lost principle. How can we plant Easter eggs for them to find that lost principle, right? Sense,
Derek, right behind you, I see what I call the shitty. right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
grew up.
yeah.
I grew up in the shitty. I grew up in East San Jose, kind of a bad neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
And you know, one thing I've realized over and over in life: when you get out to the beach, when you get out to the wilderness, when you get out in the woods, you're able to connect to what I call the source. You know,
Boom.
nature, you know, is really one of those ways that we can connect with people. There's a lot of people that enjoy nature and get out in nature. You know, one of the biggest addictions that I think is causing a huge problem is the addiction to Netflix and television and all these screens, right? We need to encourage people to get outdoors. And what you're talking about with the higher self and the higher vibration, the reason I keep harping on kicking the same can about our physical self and taking care of the self-care of our own body, and because then we can get ourselves to that point where we can be living at a higher vibration and we can actually get out to the source and receive those vibrations and come to these higher realizations. Because you don't, I mean, it's awesome to study books and to understand deeper knowledge, but that same knowledge can be gained inside of the self and in nature. You know, nature's what I always call it's the living Bible. And to me, all the allegories and examples of nature teach us how to be. And I see that as one of the main ways to relate to the source. And that I would recommend that best way to wean yourself off of a lot of these, whether it's food addiction or television addiction. The biggest propaganda is coming through these screens. And when we can get people outdoors, maybe they can raise those vibrations.
Chris, yeah, real
Dude.
quick, just to tail off what you said, Bible. I wrote this in my notes. Like, yeah, like when the occult needs a fresh reformation, that includes the exoteric world as well. And like the Bible, well, that's something that people, you know, have all their heartstrings pulled to. Some of these people with, you know, whatever religious fervor tied to it, or whenever, you know, we're not going to Bible bash anything, but, you know, like, what about making like a natural law Bible? Brandon Spencer, Lex Naturalis. Been dying to see that, man. There's so much stuff going on, and you keep pumping out more stuff, and we did one too. That was cool, but yeah, yo, who's down to chip in and do something like that? I mean, like, you know, there's a lot of hands that can weave so many beautiful tapestries, and that's what I love about, you know, networking with all these beautiful souls. And, you know, on Facebook, there's also a group that I'm kind of helping manage, which is called a Content Creators Collective. And it's just, you know, helping people out, you know, like, hey, do you need some help, you know, making thumbnails like today, or that kind of stuff. David Greenberg, I think, which is, you know, you guys are familiar with him as well. And Corey Andrelad, that keeps pumping out stuff like a machine. Like, I've been really impressed with a lot of people's approach and like stepping it the fuck up. So yeah, hats off to y'all, and keep on keeping on with that great work, y'all.
You know, Chris, what you were saying about going out to nature, like it, dude, like that kind of reminds us what we're kind of here to really enjoy. You know, like what we're really here to like fight for is that is the planet. Like, look around. You know what I mean? Like, I live close to Mount Washington, which is the White Mountains up here in New England, and man, going up to the summit of Mount Washington and looking out, oh my God, it's so fucking beautiful. It's like, I have pictures. My kids just climbed a mountain the other day, like, and they're just sitting there on a big rock, and my daughter is stuffing her face full of grapes and strawberries, and my son's like just, you know, doing goofy stuff, and they're on top of a mountain, and they're just having a blast. You know, it's like, oh wow, yeah, getting out to nature, man. Like that is truly like the enjoyable stuff, you know, and take your shoes off, get ground, you know, take your shoes off, make skin contact to the ground, you know, like that magnetic current and all that stuff, like you sync up with the earth. It's really it's relaxing, it's enjoyable, and people need to do that more for sure, dude. Turn the damn TVs off. Enjoy it every now and then. I'm not ever going to tell anybody not to, you know what I mean? I know I like to enjoy a nice movie, or I'm into like the Game of Thrones, you know, series and stuff. So, you know, yeah, whatever, but don't become a couch potato, right?
I would like to add something a little bit more difficult when it comes to care. How do we deal with secondary psychopathy? and or even primary psychopathy, right? Because these are people who literally have broken parts of their, biology, either born that way or, conditioned to be that way. And that's the most difficult aspect of like trying to, inspire somebody who knows what care is and maybe even has experienced it in their own life at some point for certain things, but yet they literally don't care, even in the face of that. They ignore it completely, even if it does come to the surface in their own body. They look at it as the enemy of themselves because it makes them vulnerable, it makes them weak. And what we're facing here is a social Darwinianistic ideology of survival of the most ruthless. So becoming a psychopath is the idea of being the most ruthless. And this is why we have an issue with care, because everybody wants to be the most ruthless in society. Everybody wants to claim to be the most high. They want to be God at some level. They might not go out and preach that themselves, but that's ultimately one of the ego, issues that we do have. That's part of society, and for me, I think it's going to take, from my point of view, it's going to take a lot of rehabilitation. I liked what a lot of you guys brought to the table. So for, the average person, obviously getting to the level of inspiring them, that's a great thing. I've done that myself. That's all you can do. You can't force somebody to care. You can only hope to spark that within themselves, but when it comes to the real difficult people who are psychopaths, who have psychopathologies going on, that's not going to work, and you need to have something for that. You need to have some type of backup plan for that. And that's more advanced. And it's going to take a lot of, understanding of human psychology. And that's why I promote the occult, because we already had answers to these things thousands of years ago. We've had these answers at our fingertips. It's like what Chris was saying, it's within ourselves and we can understand these things. It's within nature. There's a solution for these things, but whether we're willing to face those solutions or not is a completely different thing. And then whether we're willing to apply those is another topic. It's a separate thing from that. So I think self-respect and understanding your self-value definitely can help with the normal people, right? Who don't have deep psychopathy going on. I think that taking a look at yourself again and dealing with the chaotic emotions that are going on within your body and going through that and understanding that your negative emotions are there to teach you a lesson. They're there to teach you something. You need to recognize what it's trying to teach you and learn from that, and to understand that you're not perfect and that you're always going to kind of have turmoils that arise, that you're going to have negative emotions about. Things are going to happen. It could be just an accident in your life. Something can happen, and it might not even be due to slavery. And you're just going to have to learn to deal with negative emotions. We cannot ignore the negative, or we ensure that we get more of it. That's the thing. And that's the negative part I wanted to bring up here, is that psychopathy and psychopathologies, those are a lot more difficult to approach with these ideas. And I feel that true rehabilitation and true therapy and techniques, maybe even modern techniques that we haven't even discovered yet, can really help with those things, especially when we get our diet in order, especially when we start to take control of our minds and our sovereignty again, But it's like, what are you going to do when those people refuse? What do you do when they refuse and they want to stay in that condition? I mean, I think back to the movie They Live, right? And there's the point where, right, he forces the glasses onto his best friend. He forces those glasses on. And sometimes you have to do that to certain people. Some people have to be told the hard truth. My best friends always told me the hard truth, whether I wanted to hear it or not. I'd rather tell somebody the truth and make them cry than tell them a lie and make them smile. That's the thing. And these are the hard truths. These are the hard things that people don't want to deal with, is that the truth is that we have a world filled with psychopathology, and it's going to be hard to deal with those things. It's not going to be as easy as just saying, hey, I'm going to lead by example. because a lot of these people don't care that you lead by example. It doesn't matter to them.
Right.
They have all kinds of examples of great people. Look at how many great philosophers we've had at our fingertips for thousands of years that have been leading by examples. And what have we got? We have a world filled with slavery. You know, look at all these people. I mean, seriously, we got to open our eyes and be realistic about what's going on. Sometimes we're going to have to drag these people kicking and screaming to the truth. And then at least you can say that they at least knew, you know. And it's not just that they were nescient of any of it at that point. They at least knew that they were choosing not to do what is right. You know, you gave them at least the opportunity. That's for the most extreme examples, right? And that's how Mark probably would approach that as well. You know, is that, hey, this is tough. It's not called the one great work because it's a game. You know, this is tough stuff, and it's going to be very, very difficult. And I'm not saying all of us have to have those solutions, because, you know, we're not all knowing, but at least we can put them on the table and say, hey, here this is. And how do we field this? How do we deal with these things when we come in contact with this? You know, because you're going to come in contact with contact with more psychopathy than what you realize. And they're great at mimicking. They're great at hiding in society, and they're great at, you know, looking like your best friend. And the next thing you know, they're the most ruthless person that you could ever, you know, dream up in your mind. And I'll finish off with one thing, is that when it comes to this knowledge, even if it means that you have to go to the archetypal devil himself to get the truth, then you better do it. All right. Yeah. You better go there. If the way that you need to get to the truth and to morality is by studying the dark occult, you better do it. You know, not enough people study the dark occult. You better understand your enemy. And if your enemy is giving you the playbook and it's right there and they publish it everywhere, you better start reading those books. You know, those books are important, you know, because they're showing you what you're missing out on, what you don't have, you know, and what they're doing and what they're planning to do. So you better get that in your, you know, in your library. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I call it the psychological toolkit, right? I mean, this is when I got into occultism, it was about self-discovery, which, guess what? We're light and dark. You're going to have to go through those dark areas and understand this. This is all about mastering the elements. And so, yeah, we need to have the psychopath within us under control in case the time comes, so we can activate the self-defense principle. So I agree with you 100%, Brandon, on that. Absolutely. We need to be prepared, and we can do that by wargaming within our own psyche for certain situations, and be prepared for it.
Yeah. Well said.
Good people don't think that other people have evil intent, right? So part of this is for people to not be naive about that, and to, like you're saying, Brandon, study the dark. And that means acknowledging and accepting that there's darkness within people, and that if we become astute, that we can recognize the narcissists and the psychopaths in their behavior and not enable them and not give them our blood, you know? And so by us having that kind of personal boundary and self-defense, we are showing care, right? In a way that we're not feeding that and interacting with that energy in a way that promotes it. And then they're not going to get what they want, which then makes it more obvious sometimes, you know, their reactions to get attention or whatever, right? So it's like somebody saying, Tessarian talks about how the evil psychologists create the mini me's. Yeah. So, you know, there's, yeah.
They have given us their mindset. And I will ask the question, can we truly heal a primary psychopath? I mean, can we?
Probably not.
Because, yeah, from my research, I would say it's not possible too, but I mean, I could be wrong on that. And I also like the approach of not being naive, you know, hell about that psychopathy, how psychopathy is real. There are people out there who want to do, you know, evil things. And there is such thing as, you know, secondary psychopathy. People are individuals who've never really been in an environment of care, or maybe they experience some form of traumatic experience. Those people, I would say, can be helped. It would take a large group effort, but I would say a primary psychopath, they're just going to be a psychopath and do what psychopaths do. But then we have to be willing to take responsibility too, and have care and deal with that situation, when it comes, because there have been civilizations, who have dealt with psychopaths, and I have always been an advocate of, if the psychopath shows his true colors, then we have to deal with it, and I mean, like, in a self-defense, if that comes, but that just comes about with taking responsibility and having true care. Because if you let that psychopathy continue to plant seeds, then it's only going to lead to more deterioration, entropy and chaos. So
mad entropy, man. And creating mini-me's. I mean, this is like part of the law of correspondence in a sense, from the micro to the macro, and in a sense of, kind of, the fall of Atlantis and all this stuff, and kind of like, these, lower upper astral entities, whatever, all that Anunnaki invasion and whatever. They literally cut themselves off from source, if you will, just like they cut us off from source as well. And this is kind of like the birthing of, like, the narcissist, if you will, because that is what those energetic vampires need us for, to feed off of our energy, our life essence. And then you pull that back from that multidimensional level to the 3D level, and you have people reflecting all that in our day-to-day lives. You have your typical narcissists, your psychopaths, and your sociopaths, and the NSPs or whatever. I think Mario West refers to that. But like, is there any capacity for redemption in these? Like, they're kind of like a black hole, because they need to keep sucking the life force of from an external source other than themselves, or something a little bit more healthier, or something more holistic, or that causes the least amount of harm, aligned to natural law, the best of our abilities in this 3D reality. That's kind of a fallen time matrix, right? So there's a lot of stuff that even us, we're how much of the percentage are we using in our brain, and how much of our junk DNA is possibly activated in all this stuff. So yeah, it's all about encouraging people to kind of see beyond all these head cages that are out there. Even the new cage movement and all that stuff that plays on all these codes of consciousness, of course. That's like the modus operandi, in a sense, or like part of how the techniques work, of having to play off of like real fucking truths and real codes of consciousness and cosmic law. And, they just invert it and pervert it all day long. It's the same old fucking song. And that's what I mean, like, when you truly activate. I thought about this in the car driving over to my friend's house just to work out. And yes, you do activate certain, there's Chris, I think you were talking about working out with the capoeira. I made the pronunciation completely, on purpose, like that, from that funny movie. But anyways, I haven't worked out in ages. I mean, I felt like, what I did through work was good enough, but no, not at all. Because like, you really work through a lot of stagnant energy within the physical, and even the metaphysical, right? You really sweat it out. You're sweating out toxins as well. But yeah. So I was thinking about this song. Who is actually marching to the own rhythm of their beats? Are they really mastering that rhythm? And something clicked within, the three expressions of consciousness tied to the trivium and all that stuff, the heart, mind, guts. And think about, like that true, the lost principle is activated. You found something that you're passionate about and you have compassion for and all that stuff. And I hope it's yourself first and foremost, right? And that's that inner mind that creates the care to get the upper mind, thinking about and composing their own concerto or their own song. They're going to be their own master of their own ceremony, right? If they want to march to their own beat of their drum and, have a good pep in their step and, maneuvering through this matrix as unscathed as possible. You know, it's a fucking shit show out there, and you know, the whole world's a circus, right? And you know, we ain't trying to get caught out to be the clown. But anyway, so that's the bring it, you know, from the mind to the heart. You know, how many times have you heard, you know, like, you know, speak from the heart, let the soul be free? You know, are you singing your song truly from your true core essence, right? And then when you got those aligned, you bring it down and have the courage to march to the rhythm of your own beats. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
So we didn't touch we just touched the tip of the whole subject. No, we didn't talk about cultural indoctrination and how we can transmute. If we know that the people have the tendencies of being addicted to entertainment, and they have all these advertisements, I think the psychopathologies, like Brenton was talking, is the 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 psychopath, and it's encoded in the culture. We have people who are wasting their time, wasting their lives, projecting an image that they're not. They're trying to please and get the validation from other people. And then we have all the religions, all of them. So we have to take in consideration that the civilization is one of the part of the psychopathologies, the anxiety, the angst, and the frustration, and the stress, and the sadness, and the death. And people, I think one of the things that keeps people from growing up, it's people are scared of dying. So they're so scared of dying,
Yeah,
that they're not living.
Yep.
So I think this is, and we don't have to like go and make studies for 2 years to see that. You know, they're always pounding death and disease and shootouts and all the things and things like that. And these things there is having an effect on the subconscious of people. They're always like on the stress, always. Do my kid is gonna survive now? Does a shooter is gonna get into the school? And you know, it's always fermenting into the souls and the minds of the people. So you have the what is going to happen to children. We have people truly care about children, you know, and it's very and it's very hard when you come to realize that they're the most ill treated in all of the society. They're there's an obligation there. People put an agenda on their life and on their time. They cannot grow up because they're programmed into it. Growing up, it's not sitting your ass on a chair for it all day. Living is, and studying is, going outside and look at the mushrooms, and look at the trees and the birds. It's part of what life is. But some people in the big cities think they're in contact with nature when they're smoking a joint. Okay, so we have this cognitive dissonance. Okay, people say, "Oh, I'm going into the woods, and you know, one time a year when there's the holidays, you know, because it's the only place that they can get centered to themselves." So, to not stretch it too much, I think the culture, the program of this of society, of this different nations, is a big part of what keeps people back. You have the indoctrination from the parents, you know, and then you have all these this sub psychopathologies that can arise from, schizophrenia, when you're abandoned by your parents, mentally, emotionally. People will get into this cube that their own mind, and they're gonna detach and deny reality around them. And you see it now. These children don't go out to so much. So when they're going out, they're awkward as hell. They're batching each other and insulting them each other on the social media. And then when they're getting out, they're lost, because
it goes back to the echo chambers also, and having their comfort zone. Just real quick, all that stuff that I think, James, you were talking about earlier, all the face-to-faces and stuff, and like people being so up in their comfort zones of their echo chambers and all the yes and women, man. Folks, that's kind of what we're up against to a good degree. And it's like, yeah, we've seen this encroachment of just like more segregation. How many people are you friends with on Facebook, and how many people that you actually see on your news feed these days? It's absurd, But yeah, like that's all I wanted to say about that.
Someone want to add something?
Yeah, I'll jump in. And this was a pretty good section that I'm going to elaborate on my part 2 presentation of Return to Nature. Culture, right? To cultivate. What are we cultivating? Well, it's easy. We can observe the world today, and we can see that people are in this lack of, this scarcity. They pack them in the scare cities. And that was for you, Derek. Get a little rhyme in. So that lack of mind, this is the primal mind that they keep feeding with programming, that people are embracing the reptilian mind in survival mode, the lack of, which when you are diminished from nature, right, which nature, the return to nature in my presentation is talking about a state of mind. This is why I'm an animist, because an animist is one of soul and sees the inherent value and interconnectedness of everything in the natural world, in the self and in nature, right? Natural law, the principles. And we see that abundance is everywhere, is nature. So yeah, you're right, Fred, with the fear of death, because this is the primal fear, right? The lack of life. And all fear is based in ignorance, right? So people have a lack of knowledge of what it means to live, what it means to be human, what is nature. These are the elementary, foundational categories of existence, right? This is what we all try to talk about, is natural law, nature. So culture ultimately can be neutral, but culture in the modern world today is one of a cult of ignorance and death and stagnation. We need to cultivate to truth, for truth, in service of truth, in harmony with nature, in that symbiosis. So absolutely, and it always comes back, for at least for me, to parenting. The parental aspect has a chance to sever the ball and chain from their children, and that is instilling and being that mentor of principles in mind, state of mind, but also obviously the holistic approach, treating the physical body with respect, because just like a radio, if the radio is all jacked up, the signal's going to be all static. So I mean, I could rant on this, but yeah, I'll leave it there. So
just to bring up the word, you brought up culture and cultivate. I know culture gets a lot of bad rap, but these words are just neutral. They really just mean to plant seeds. To cultivate something means you're planting seeds. So what seeds are we planting? And like the great Jordan Maxwell always said, by their fruits you shall know them. So look at the fruits of everything that has happened, and then you will know what seeds have been planted. They have given us their psychopathic minds, so I'll end it on that.
Yeah, that term of like them giving us their psychopathic minds, that brings to mind the what's the mushroom guy? What's his name?
Terrence McKenna.
Terrence McKenna gave that speech about, authority. To think for yourself, you must question authority. That throughout human history, it's been the educational, the judicial, these authorities that have imprinted onto our minds their view of reality. And that's like, wait, no, that's Timothy Leary. Sorry, it's not Terrence McKenna. That's Timothy
That's
Leary.
the LSD
My mistake.
guy.
Terrence
LSD
McKenna
guy.
said, "Culture is not your friend."
Your friend.
Yeah, right.
But no, Timothy Leary. Sorry, excuse me. He gave that speech. It's featured at the beginning of a live Tool song from their album Survival. The song's called Third Eye, as a matter of fact. So go give that a listen because it's Third Eye opening. Get it? It's a joke. It's a shitty joke. Anyways, Fred, your point about children being the most ill-treated, it's simple, man. It's because they're the most defenseless, and it's up to us to come to their defense and to put a stop to all that BS that's happening to children. But if you can prolong a state of adolescence, you also prolong the state of defenselessness within a person. So that's exactly, I think part of where they'd want us, the big they, where they'd want us to be, so there.
Can we hear that Terrence McKenna voice again? Whoever did that.
Culture is not your friend.
Yeah. And your ego ain't your amigo, man. But at the same time, it's like, that's the dragon that you got to conquer and ride out, and take control of your life and be that, master of your own ceremony, like I was getting back to. But Fred, yeah, like, man, like talking about people. Yeah, people. We're all people, right? Yeah. We all got different biological makeups and different blood types and yada, yada, yada.
Whoa. We're not all people.
Sorry to overgeneralize. Yeah. Oh, sorry about, like a lizard breath queen, whoever. Yeah, something like
Queen
that.
of lizard beast.
Yeah, so what's up with like this millennial mentality, the self-entitlement, and just like these people are really disingenuous. I've noticed. I lived in like a college town over the summer in Oregon, and it's just like it was really weird. It was like more liberal over there than up here.
Is that a genuine question about millennials?
It's not to get into them. It's just to bring up the fact and tie it in because I didn't, bring it back to the whole social media stuff and the echo chambers, and that these people lack social skills in real life. They're all, like you got people talking shit on the internet like it was 1990 something, whatever, and then they go into real life and like they get all flustered because they don't want to get away with all the bullshit that they've been getting away with for how many years and all that stuff, and like it's just really sad to see.
Yeah, the lack of communication skills.
We can all take compassionate approaches and realize that, like us, we've done the shadow work. We've understood, how people can project and how we used to project and all this stuff. And, they're coming from a place of ignorance and trauma and like, self-inflicted pain or other stuff and mind control. It's a clusterfuck that we can kind of ask them questions, from a place of care, and then, show any kind of mirror towards any of those angles that could, spark some kind of care within themselves to make them love themselves any more. And then they fall in the rabbit holes and because they look under health or something like that. And like, whoa, there's like energy healing and this and that. And yeah, they might fall into some new age trappings and this and that, but sometimes these are just parts of the rites of initiation, especially if you're doing it by yourself and all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of people like tourists, like we have spiritual tourists, that maybe do the yoga once a week or this and that, or, they might look up, a certain documentary or something like that, a couple times, this and that, and they do not understand, like as within, as without, first of all, the inner and outer work, within that, but it's a daily operation, you know. And you got to have patience, and you got to find that passion to keep that drive and consistency to make it happen, and ripple that out, like you guys were saying and hinting towards. Like, yeah, Chris, you know, be that example, be that shining light. Don't shine it too bright and, you know, be all flamboyant. I know I can come off a lot of, you know, energetically. I'm a fire sign, so what do you expect? But yeah, I'll pass to the next. Yeah,
Leslie
Derek.
and Brendan, you wanted to quit, so I just wanted to thank you before you go. Thank you very much for participating and sharing your wisdom. It's much
This is fun.
appreciated.
Thanks for having me, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for putting all this on. You know, this has been
Yeah.
amazing.
This has been a
Yeah,
very
it has been amazing.
talk. I really appreciate everybody's input and give me a lot to think about. It's been a great talk, guys. This is one to save
Yeah.
and
We're here
share.
for that, man.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I have it
Awesome.
recording.
Awesome.
Derek, I'm sorry. I want to say goodbye to my friends too, Leslie and Brandon. Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Same here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
gotta
was
go.
good talking to you guys.
much love, y'all.
I'm going to cut out. Thanks so much, guys.
You're
All right,
welcome.
brother.
Yeah.
Hey,
Bye,
good
Chris.
evening.
Good to see you, man.
Night.
Appreciate it,
Awesome.
Chris.
Keep up the good work. Thanks, Greg, for having us.
Yeah, take care, y'all.
My pleasure, man. You come back whenever you want. No problem.
Hope to talk soon, Chris.
So we're 2 hours and 15 minutes. So you guys want to go further, or we're keeping subject for another time, because we can still like go on.
I have a question that Derek just brought something up that I'd like to address. I want to ask,
La
like,
la.
what did you say about millennials?
Millennials. I just said something like there's like this millennial mentality, the self entitlement. Of course, we're talking about like the program side of things. I mean, I'm kind of on the cusp. I was born in '83, so
Yep.
people put, you know, whatever, and it's like I don't care. Like, you know, we're multidimensional beings above and beyond any freaking, you know, compartmentalization or generalization or labels, right? But, you know, like sometimes for time's sake, or, you know, to not go into all the explanations and the caveats of whatever, we try to boil it down into like a simple phrase or whatever. But I just, yeah, like the interactions with people, it's like, you know, looking them into the eyes, having like just like genuine eye contact sometimes, that's just like, it's almost too much for them or whatever. It's just like only for a limited time only, or like, oh, just and even that, we're talking about even before millennial. What's the generation before millennials anyways?
Gen X. No.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry. Is it?
Okay, yeah. Like I might
Is
be
it Gen
getting
X?
things
Yeah, it's
mixed
Gen
up.
X.
Like I said,
Why
I'm so
before?
out of touch over here, but yeah. Folks are different. They're
Actually,
like, in
millennials are kind of Generation Y. Like, Generation Y did this happen to me. You know? I was born in 1989. I grew up in the 90s being told that when I grow up, I can be whatever I want. When I grow up, the world will be my oyster. All I have to do is shuck it. And that it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. And then we were, as 11 and 12-year-olds, made to watch 3,000 people die on live television over and over and over again. And then nothing got better. So for an entire generation of people are traumatized in a very special way from a very early age.
Damn,
and when you're dealing with a group of people like that were told one thing and then served up another thing, when you're dealing with a group of people like that, it can be very tense. I know a lot of very, very nice millennial folk, and I know a lot of very, very twisted up millennial folk, and it's nothing special. You know, it goes for just about any generation, but there's something special, a little bit special about these people, because I remember being 12 years old and seeing that shit happen. And I'm sitting there in this auditorium. They shuffled us all in this auditorium in the school and made us all watch it together. And I'm like crying, like, and the teacher's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay. This is not okay. We should not be watching this." And they're like, "Well, you have to watch it." I'm like, "What? Why?" So I'm saying that. What I'm saying that is that, and maybe I misunderstood what you were saying, Derek, but for a moment I thought that you were using millennial as a pejorative, and I wanted to say that, that might not be very fair toward the people.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. And I just, I was rushing through, getting to a certain point that had little to do with them. It's just like it could be any age group, for sure.
Yeah, it can. For sure. No. It's perfectly fine. It's just something a little bit strange happened to these kids,
Yeah,
I mean it. I mean it. Growing up in the 90s, I was told by my parents, "Oh, you could grow up and be whatever you want." And then, the New World Police State came and shuffled its way in after 9/11, and it's like all of our I still remember the. I don't know, the feeling of the 90s wasn't so great, but like, I still remember being told that, and then growing up in this shit. It's, and then on top of all of that, the people that are my age have been some of the most heavily medicated children to ever exist.
Yeah.
And so it's like on top of the trauma and all of that, then you medicate these kids, and there's no real healing going on, and so that's kind of what was on my mind when you mentioned that.
Distract the older generations and program and condition the younger generations, right? Like I was born in 82, so, and you were kids that were grown up in the 90s, right? I mean, the whole 9/11, that just normalized a whole new paradigm where they think it's normal, and certain drugs are normal. It's just a part of culture. It's a part of life. So, and that's just a continuous pattern that they use, the social engineers. Sorry to interrupt, Brandon. Go for it.
Nah, you're good, because I'm gonna tell my age too, because I was born in '86. So we're all kind of around like the same age. But yeah, James, I would agree with you, because it was 10th grade year, when 2001 happened, and we was pretty much forced to watch that traumatizing event over and over and over again. And then something else too is, I want to say our generation was one of the first that really saw an advancement in technology, because once we got to the 2000s, after like the whole Y2K, have propaganda, we saw the pushing of technology and the internet and video games. That was when like the PlayStation, Xbox and stuff all became big time, and like all the kids, wanted that, but that kind of took your distraction away, and it started sowing the seeds later on for the technology to be more advanced in social media. And that's when we kind of started to see a lack in communication skills, a lack in, like face-to-face interaction. Because kids used to go outside, but once that technology started to boom, man, I was always inside playing my PlayStation, like freaking, I wasn't interested in going out and meeting kids, or, hell, just going outdoors. It would just focus on that square box, just trapped in that box, trapped in front of that screen. And we've seen what that has manifested into, because, how now that my generation has gotten older and they've had kids, then what's the first thing that they do? They put them right back in front of that box. And we see that this younger generation lacks communication skills, because I am around them a lot and I'll go interact with them. I like going to play airsoft, and there's a lot of younger kids, and you just can't, and you try to have a conversation with them, and they're just out there. They can't really have a conversation that lasts like 2 minutes, and it's really scary, because you can see the effects. And like James said, a lot of these kids are heavily medicated, and you can see it on how they act. You can see it in how they talk, and it really is frightening, because it's not really getting any better.
No, it's not. You have some of the people that are around my age have been surveilled for 2/3 of their life, and it's only getting worse. The younger generations, it's 100% of their lives, you know, like their parents put their pictures of them up on social media when they're fucking babies, ultrasound pictures and stuff like that. I'm guilty of that. Just so everything's on the table. Very proud of my kids. I love my kids. I love, you know, anyways.
You asshole. You didn't get consent for that.
Oh, God damn it. Fuck. I'll just be like, Jameson, sign this form. What? You know, but like, but the point is that like, you know, we're being surveilled all the time. I don't know. That came to mind when you're talking about, you know, video games and everything, you know. I still remember what it's like to go out, climb a tree, and then come home, and then there's the PlayStation there, where it was like that wasn't the case before. You know, we had like a Super Nintendo or whatever. Like video games have always been a part of my life as well. You know, it's fun. I'll say that much. It's some fun. There's some interesting video games out there. You know, like there's this one. All right, we're derailing. Sorry, but there's some good stories in some video games, like BioShock, for instance, is basically like Brave New World. It's like in video game form. Like you can, you know, there's some good stories if you know where you're going, if you know how to pick them. You know. So, anyways, yeah. Derek, no hard feelings, bro. No hard feelings at all. Yeah. I just got to stick up for my millennial people. You know what I mean? Like,
I want to stick up for them too. It's just, I mean, it's too easy to focus on the negative and all that stuff. For folks still playing video games and you're awake and aware and kind of feeling guilty of, you know, wasting time, possibly, you know, in front of a screen like that with a, you know, whatever joystick or on the computer. If it's not too involved and not, you know, something kind of cool that you're learning something from and going through a story, a hero's journey, there's allegories and stuff, that's cool, whatever. But if not, you can always watch or listen to a podcast or even one of my music mixes while you do that. But yeah, that was all I had to say about the video games. But yeah.
So
I got emulators, man.
It's really cool. Like there's a game called Minecraft. I'm sure we've all heard of it, but like they're teaching kids how to code because of the interest that they have in Minecraft. They're using the code in Minecraft to teach kids how to read and make, you know, how to do coding. And it's because these kids are interested in that. So it's like they're getting involved in technology. So there's an application for everything, is I guess my point, and it's like in moderation, it can be appropriate, and we shouldn't. I don't know if it's bold to say should or shouldn't, but like it's possible to have a good relationship with technology. It's possible to have a good relationship with things like video games and television, as so long as you're really tuned in to exactly what the hell is going on with those machines and not using them too often. Of course, everything is good in moderation. You know, so it's just about not getting addicted to it, you know, because it's meant to be addicting, right? So who said alpha state with the you know, the certain waves and everything, 60 frames per second, and you know, flicker rates and everything like that is supposed to get into your brain and fuck with your head, and it's like all proven. But you know,
it's a good point of being the example of discipline, right? As a parent, discipline is not do what I said so, and if you don't, I'm gonna whoop your ass. That's not discipline. Discipline is I make my bed every morning, and right, and your child can see this. You're setting the example of positive learned behavior, right? I'm disciplined in my diet. I'm disciplined when I exercise, take the dogs for a walk every night, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, there is a level of balance and moderation. I grew up on a ranch, so I was outdoors all the time, but I had my Super Nintendo and I loved my fantasy RPGs that I learned actually some very good mysticism and esoteric knowledge from. But there's a difference when it's, you know, 12, 15 hours on the computer or on a console versus, you know, an hour here and there, after you've done your disciplined work, your chores, or I mean, when I say chores, I just mean like, make sure your room's clean, exercising, eating right, all this kind of stuff. So yeah.
That's a showing examples of self-care, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it comes down to. And it's like, what the saying is like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, like, so, The Shining. But anyways, yeah, man, like, did you ever play The Legend of Mana on Super Nintendo?
Oh yeah.
I love that game. When you said fantasy games, I was like, yeah, Legend of Mana. I remember that. 1994, 1995.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays we see grown ass men like wasting most of their day on playing video games and shit like that.
And they're making millions of dollars.
What are you doing?
They're making all sorts of money and stuff, and like it's just like, God, man.
I mean, I tell people nowadays, it's like if you're not doing something for the cause of freedom, if you're not talking about what is freedom, how do we achieve freedom, then you're not fucking doing anything. Right. I mean, so there's unlimited forms of expression, creative expression to do that. Conscious parenting is one of them. Right. Not everyone can be a podcaster or write books, but yet there's different forms and fashions to inspire and educate freedom, what it is and how to achieve it.
Teaching is not close to institution. Teaching is about you can teach everything, depends on what your interests are on our case. It would be the great work and the occult, but basically you can learn how to take care of children and show them things, and you don't have to go to university for that. We're never perfect as parents, so we're learning at the same time as them, not the same thing, but how to behave with them and how to put a better environment for students, like our children. What's the best thing for children? Let's say your children is very active, then we should look for a way to teach, but during exercise and activities, and adjusting for the children's personality. So I think that should be for even adults who want to learn something. There's people who are active and they want to do exercise and they like moving, and there's people like me who are more intellectual, and I need stimulation, and I'm not gonna get stimulation by playing football or making bicycle. You have to take and put your interest at the your time, essentially your currency at the good place.
Yep.
Definitely.
It's all about gauging, like you were talking about your children. Like, us as the parents are the most inherently primed to teach the kids that we create. That's why it's such a great responsibility to take. And that's a big part of things I like to bring to people's attention, is that all it takes is time and attention to get to know this little person who's running around, all happy all the time and causing all sorts of chaos. It seems like chaos, but it's just fun, learning, pushing boundaries and all that. And it's up to us as the adults with more people with more life experience, so-called adults, to kind of like get to know our children, to know how they operate, to know their emotions, to be there for them when they're going through tough times, to coach them, to help them. And it's a big part of like Will has he obviously, he knows that he's been a major inspiration on me to kind of get back to that childlike wonder, to be more relatable toward my children, because it's that kind of relatability with them that's going to help me grow up with them. And they're going to teach me a lot along the way too. I didn't know myself until I had kids. I didn't know what I was capable of until I had kids. It was that kind of kick in the pants that I really needed to be like, whoa, there's really big things at play here, and I gotta get back to it. So, yeah, I mean, we really are the ones that that are most primed to take care of our kids, and they need us.
Yeah, these things. I wish I heard these years ago, because I was, what sparked a fire up my ass and gave me that spark of care was being married, being in love, and having that heart chakra activated, and realizing that, hey, we're gonna have kids, eventually. Married 9 years, never had kids, but c'est la vie, mon ami, mais oui. That was the French wife life, and it was such a beautiful experience. I learned so much, and just that spark of putting myself and like pre-paving the path for me to be a parent. And I wanted to be a conscious one, even though I didn't go through any dark nights of the soul at that time. It was really before I plunged into the whole shadow work and all that stuff, even though I didn't know all these terms or the alchemical process of spirituality, whatever. But man, like, I hear a lot of people, especially in the younger generations, not going to generalize, but even our age, whatever, and just saying like, like, this world is fucked,
Yeah.
we're overpopulated or blah fucking blah, not understanding, all the, scarcity based mind control tactics and all the other, minutia, right? But they still feel like, man, this world is going to hell in a handbasket, or whatever, however you want to paraphrase it, right? They feel like, I don't want to bring another child into this world. And, for a while, I was kind of on that tip, on the fence with it, because, I wanted to prolong, my parents wanted to have grandkids. That I was against their pressure, but, for the wife and everything, even though she wanted to, travel around, whatever, it doesn't matter. But my point is, I already forgot. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll jump in real quick. Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, go, please.
No, so children are great at being, right? And this is what parents need to understand, is that their formative years up till 7, let your kids just be. Let them discover themselves and discover life. There's too much pressure and just shit being shoved down their throat all the time, right? Just let them be. And we are here to give them the tools to assist in becoming, right? They will do this on their own. We're going to give them the skills and the tool sets, hopefully, for them to become their sole purpose and self-actualize. I was going to say something else, and it escaped my mind. So
we are their guides on the path to self-actualization.
Yeah.
Way showers.
Nice.
Will, you had a great presentation, Conscious Parenting, a couple years ago. That was great.
Yes.
Yeah, like that inspired me, and it just clicked with the way we can articulate these things, and that, like, no, we need to, give birth to new spiritual warriors and tip the fucking scales and be those way showers of natural law in their formative years, live and direct every day. You guys are all doing it. You three, Fred, Will, and and James. Sorry, bravo. Hats off to you. I don't know, Brandon Spencer. I don't know if you have kids or not, but I think we're in the same boat. But at the same time, we can still relate to a good degree and have that cosmic care and agape to chip in and like, I was even thinking about being a soccer coach for, young kids and, infusing them with, all types of great spiritual principles and natural law and all that stuff. I feel like I have a higher calling than that, but hey, if it makes money, why not on the side? But holy shit, I need to find some work where I don't have to pay taxes and all that stuff. And you know what it is.
Well,
anyway,
that's
I know
the
there's
thing.
like 3 minutes left. I know Fred put the thing in, so I think we're winding down. So sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'll just say this real quick statement. You don't have to have kids to influence positively into the young minds. Brandon, I know you work with young kids, right? I mean, so we're always interacting with people around us and in our environment. I used to be a big proponent with, you know what? I mean, people shouldn't have kids. The world is shit. It's slavery. You know, make sure you really want to have kids. Now I'm more, my stance is, I think there has to be that sacred union, a man and a woman that are freedom orientated. And yes, they should have kids, a lot of kids. We need to tip the scale, just like you said, Derek. And I appreciate Brandon, James, Fred, Derek. I appreciate all you guys, man. Thank you.
So,
Appreciate you too, brother.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for being there. It was awesome. It's I mean, your whole efforts make the discussion table a success, a complete success. At my point, in my opinion, I enjoy it, and I want to make it happen every week. And if there's a week that there's nobody, I have plenty of French stuff to put out. You know, there's always something to do. You know, so
Fridays are good for me, man. This was a killer chat.
Me too.
Great discussion.
Yeah. So if you want to plug your stuff,
amazing.
guy, it's time right now.
Will?
Yeah, I'll go. So you can check out all my work is on the One Great Work Network under Will Keller. You can go to Linktree/Will Keller and get to all of my links on there, social media, all that. So Fred, thanks for hosting this. And again, all you guys, I appreciate it. A fantastic discussion tonight. And thanks to all the viewers.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Great comments.
It's your turn, Derek.
Alors, les amis, merci, and all that stuff. Oui. Fred, I wish we could get down, but the Canadian French is something else. Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for everyone who was listening and stuff. Obviously, everyone who participated, and much love to all the wonderful folks out there, and everyone who's taking a lot of time away from parenting and stuff to be here tonight and all that stuff. Much love and respect to y'all, and you can find me at Awaken Your Mind. That's my YouTube thing, and I got my BitChute on my real name and some other stuff. Let the platforms expand, and the cross-pollination is awesome. I'm loving the there's circles, crossing circles, and it seems like the right alignments at the right time. So it's just blessed to be and connect with all y'all. So thanks again,
Brendan.
I want to thank everyone, who was tuning in. I want to thank everyone who joined. You can find my work on the One Great Work Network, on Odyssey, BitChute. I don't advocate looking at my stuff on YouTube. I'm floating on thin ice with 2 strikes. So who knows how long, that would be up. So I got to October 7th. And, if I'm a good little boy, my abusive mom, Susanna, will take away one of my strikes. So
James,
good luck with it.
Brandon, you better be on your best behavior. So help me.
He did the whole presentation about that, man. Fred knows.
So, my name is James Cordner. My website is freeyourmindne.com. My podcast is A Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth. You can get your own version of this t-shirt at my little t-shirt store. You find that at freeyourmindne.com/store or whatever. Just go to the website, explore, have fun. Good news. All of the presentations from last weekend's conference have been uploaded. The last thing I need to do is upload the roundtable discussion that we had at the very tail end. And these are not the presentations that experience technical difficulties. These are the raw files uploaded to the Odyssey channel, odyssey.com, Shattering the Illusion. Go check it out. Get up to date on that. And what else? Thank you, Fred, for having us, man. You're an incredible host.
Yeah, Fred.
Tremendous host. And
thanks, Fred.
Thank you for everyone that was watching tonight. See you guys soon.
So the podcast, the LIBERcast, is on Facebook, BitChute, Odyssey, and YouTube. And I don't have 2 strikes, but I'm getting there. I'm on my way. So the next podcast is Tuesday with Mario West. It's gonna be very interesting. So I suggest you that you tune in at it's gonna be the 4th of October. So be there. And next Friday, discussion table, same place, same hour. So have a good night, everyone, and thank you for being there. I think there's two more. I see two people. Yeah, damn. You guys, I have like respect for you. You stick up for like 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
Here we go.
Thank you.
So
That's
have a
child's
good night,
play.
everyone. Bonne nuit, mes amis.
Right.